For a second, this woman's really scary. She could easily get elected president. She's much more skillful than I have ever seen. She's a liar on the deepest level. The things she is saying right now are not just untrue, they're the opposite of the truth, which is the hallmark of evil.
I got dick down at the DNC. Oh, dick down at the DNC. Thank you for having us. Thank you, guys.
A lot of people are expressing dissatisfaction. What they expected her to do, they have not seen. Like you have seen here, Steve just smashed his TV during Kamala's acceptance speech. Kamala will never be my president, Steve said, as he turned his TV into pieces. He is doing what we all want to do. And Tucker Carlson noticed something, and it is extremely concerning. I show you this. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please endeavor to do that. It will do you no harm if you share out this video.
Consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy.
Can I just interject here for a second? This woman's really scary. She could easily get elected president. She's much more skillful than I have ever seen. She's a liar on the deepest level. The things she is saying right now are not just untrue, they're the opposite of the truth, which is the hallmark of evil. She's an extremist. She'll say anything. She's much more like Gavin Newsom than I ever realized. I could go through a whole litany of why what she's saying is not true. It wasn't an armed mob. There's not one person inside the Capitol with a firearm, period. The only person who was shot in the Capitol was an unarmed woman shot by one of Nancy Pelosi's bodyguards. So again and again, she's telling us that she fought the cartels to secure the border. She's the border czar, and the border is controlled by the cartels.
She argued that Donald Trump, quote, tried to throw away your votes. Didn't the Democrat Party just throw away all the votes and install her?
Well, exactly. She's saying that Donald Trump will free from prison violent extremists, meaning like 75-year-old lower middle class women with diabetes, when she endorsed defunding the police and opening the prisons to allow actual criminals out, which is why the crime rate has spiked, to allow the population of Venezuela's prisons, Caracas's prisons, are now living in the United States because of her. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, and I don't want to sound like I'm whining or fact-checking, which I hate, but what she's saying is the mirror image of the truth. She doesn't care. She's got no reference points in the truth, and she's an extremist. And she's a former prosecutor, and no former prosecutor should hold power, period. I've covered them my whole life. I've intensely disliked every single one of them for good reason. I think they're scary, they're liars, and they're megalomaniacal. And they put people in prison for political reasons. I've seen it again and again and again, and she's one of them.
Yes, Tucker Carlson exposing the hypocrisy of the DNC, questioning why they need a full military out there if they are so anti-gun. So they are really not against guns. They are not envisioning a war without guns. They are envisioning a war which they have a total monopoly on guns. Why does the left get all the guns? I mean, why should Kamala or Nancy Pelosi have bodyguard with automatic weapon? If I can't have an automatic weapon, why should I pay for their weapons? Why they strip me of mine? That is a remark that Tucker Carlson put out, and a lot of people are actually looking into this. Like, if you continue to advocate that they should not, why are you having this security, sophisticated security that we see here? This is just one remark that I see to be important.
We seem to be in the middle of a segment entitled Freedom from Violence. There are isolated tight shots on pretty women in tears in the crowd. They're basically making the case that as they have spiked the crime rate, you have no right to defend yourself. But they're not quite phrasing it that way, are they?
No, they're just telling you how much better life would be if there were no guns.
Yeah.
Without telling you how much less freedom we'll have
Yeah.
without guns. And so they'll never give the full explanation. They just want to pull at your heartstrings to start off. the Knight of Camelot.
But it's just crazy that the entire platform really comes down to, at this point, eliminating the First and Second Amendments to the Constitution, of the Bill of Rights, basically like getting rid of civil liberties and these kind of pesky speed bumps on the way to one-party rule.
Tucker, you're forgetting. That's all a part of saving democracy. Getting rid of the First and Second Amendment is how you save democracy, Tucker.
And by save democracy, you mean make everyone who disagrees with what we're doing shut up or go to prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a level of democracy. That's what George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, that's what they fought for. This is the democracy that it's taken us 250 years to get here, where we can actually have what the founding fathers wanted us to have.
Which is just total robotic obedience. They're not against guns, actually. I mean, as long as they're taking guns away, I'd like to take his away, like immediately.
They got a lot of guns.
They got a lot of guns. CIA has a lot of guns.
No, just right outside their convention to keep the protesters at bay. They got a full military out there.
Of course. So they're really not against guns. They're not envisioning a world without guns. They're envisioning a world in which they have a total monopoly on guns.
No question about it. Because these elites will all be tucked away someplace safe in a gated community, guarded by guns, and the rest of us will have to fend for ourselves.
But can I just ask you, why does the anti-gun control people, the NRA, who I've sent a lot of money to over the year, I'm a life member because I'm a hunter and a shooter and all that. I believe in the Second Amendment. But I never heard any of them make the obvious point. Why does the left get all the guns? I mean, why should Kamala Harris or Nancy Pelosi have bodyguards with automatic weapons if I can't have an automatic weapon? Why should I pay for their weapons while they strip me of mine? Like, no one ever said that.
Yes, a lot of people are furious. This guy, this Adam man, is a lover of war. He said recently during his speech here that the Republican Party is no longer the party he knew, and went further to appreciate Democrat. A lot of people are furious and now calling Gov to remove him in the party. That is to tell you a lot. If you see a betrayer like this just because he hates Trump, it is insane. Then he calls himself a Republican. His crying about the Gov not being consecutive anymore is big irony.
I've learned something about the Democratic Party, and I want to let my fellow Republicans in on the secret. The Democrats are as patriotic as us. The Republican Party is no longer conservative. It has switched its allegiance from the principles that gave it purpose to a man whose only purpose is himself. Donald Trump is a weak man pretending to be strong. He is a small man pretending to be big. He's a faithless man pretending to be righteous. He's a perpetrator who can't stop playing the victim. He puts on quite a show, but there is no real strength there. Tarnished by a man too fragile, too vain, and too weak to accept defeat. How can a party claim to be patriotic if it idolizes a man who tried to overthrow a free and fair election?
It's just amazing to me.
Like this. It does not need to be like this. This is silly.
About Barack Obama when it comes to
theme here at the DNC is that they're going to go after corporate gouging.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
her being president.
And if the pace plays
leaving.
A speech from Michelle Obama that I have to say is one of the best
gun-toting.
Abby, we were talking.
Trump or Kamala? Trump. Damn Kamala.
Kamala Harris is in office right now and has not tried to do anything about the border, has not tried to not tax people on tips.
For some people, it's already started.
But when you disrespect Kamala Harris.
They say the economy's great. Just look at the jobs numbers. Well, we did, and they disappeared.
The money in politics is so extraordinary, which is something that should have never been allowed to happen.
You do not have autonomy over this. Survivors.